I'm Jim Canfield, and today I'm with David Allen. David is the author of Getting Things Done. The term best-selling book gets thrown around pretty liberally, and in this case it really applies. Getting Things Done has sold almost 2 million copies since its original publication. This year, David will be re-releasing Getting Things Done, and I'm really happy to be able to be here today to speak to him about it. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Jim. Delighted to be here.
So tell me about the concepts in Getting Things Done. How did those ideas come about?
Mostly to help me to begin with. You know, you always teach what you need to learn the most, so I was an out-of-control, unfocused guy to some extent. And also, I always love to find ways to make life easier. You know, I wake up in the morning and go, how much easier can I make this happen or that happen? So I began to explore some of those techniques. After a lot of different professions, I became a consultant early on in the early 80s. And I began to take some of the techniques that I had learned for myself that actually worked and began to apply them with small business owners and entrepreneurs and people in my network. And surprise, surprise, those techniques worked for them too. And not only that, they worked invariably, and no matter what kind of business or who the person was, they began to apply these techniques, gave them more control and more focus. So, as I say, it took me 25 years to really figure out that what I'd figured out was unique, and that nobody else seems to have packaged it the same way that I did. So that's when I decided to write the book as a manual about all that stuff that came out of thousands of hours. Literally, I spent desk side with some of the busiest, brightest, and best people on the planet, testing this out, applying it, and watching the results.
Amazing. And it's not just tools and techniques. This is really a way of being and a way of life. It has a very Zen-like quality. In fact, you've referred to it as Getting Things Done is almost like a martial art. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, well, whereas an art might, like watercolor or ballet or whatever, you're certainly overcoming things, but it's not dealing with surprise, dealing with the unexpected. Somebody asked me my definition of a martial art, and my answer was pretty succinct. It's successful overcoming. And these days, certainly with the way the world is moving and morphing on us 24/7, always connected on, people say, what's new these days? And I say, nothing's new except how frequently it's new. You know, as we're speaking, you know, and as the folks that are watching this, stuff is landing in their email that could blow the heck out of what they think their priorities are once they leave the meeting. So it's moving fast, and so being able to engage with that, much like four people jumping you in a dark alley, you know, you need a clear head. You need to be able to create the opportunity to engage with that appropriately and surf on top of it instead of feeling buried by it. So there's a lot of very, very close analogies to the martial arts itself as to how we manage the flow of life's work.
It's really interesting. If I deal with the idea of surprise being, I don't know what's coming and then it's there, versus something that startles me.
Yeah.
Although sometimes it is startling.
Indeed.
It's really more like you're describing it. You're right. Our email inbox or any other medium in which we're receiving information dictates our next response, our next thought. How much does that offset or shift the rest of the day by one email? So what you're describing is how do we respond to that rather than react to it? Am I picking that up right?
Exactly. And what you need to do is, first of all, most people have implicitly defined their own ecosystem. So there are a lot of people you're not getting emails from, but there are a lot of people you are. Your Aunt Susie is now sending email. Your grandmother's now on FaceTime. I mean, it's coming from all directions. But it is, once it lands in your 10 acres, as we say, that now becomes something potentially meaningful that you have an internal implicit commitment to engage with in some way, shape, or form, or you wouldn't have let it in to begin with. It wouldn't even be there. So understanding that we need to be able to take in what we've let come in, decide what it means, park it in appropriate places so we're surfing on top of it, but most people are feeling pretty much victimized by that as opposed to, wow, here's neat new information to help me recalibrate. So the ability to capture, integrate, and then recalibrate your focus based upon the whole gestalt or the whole inventory of all of your commitments at multiple levels is a martial art.
Now also you mentioned that Getting Things Done is the martial art of work. Anything else you would add to talk about how that applies?
Well, I use work in a very broad sense. Anything you want to get done that's not done yet.
Oh, say that again.
Work is anything you want to get done that's not done yet. So get tires on your car, handle the next vacation, take your watercolor class, as well as hire the assistant, launch the ad campaign, increase your credit line. All of those are essentially work. And, for a lot of people, work is a pejorative, like, oh, that's work. And I go, no, things work. So work in its double meaning is to make life work, you need to manage life's work. So the art of work management, most people just work, right? They don't really realize there's an art form to that, or there is a form to work itself. So I think what GTD did, or that's the shorthand for getting things done, that it defined the art of work and the moves and the parameters essentially of what work is. And then you can get better at it once you understand that. So that's all I did. And it's not like some new language or foreign technology. I mean, these are behaviors we actually all engage in. All I did was recognize which ones really work, what's the underlying principle there, and then just make that explicit. So once you take implicit stuff and make it explicit, you can do it with more elegance and ease.